We're going to give it about 5 minutes before we get started. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you to all the community members for joining us this evening. My name is Vanya Pukasangre, and I am the communication specialist for the City of Lynwood. My role here tonight is to facilitate this conversation and keep our panel moving forward. And we want to respect your time this evening. I would like now to ask Pamela to briefly introduce herself and the other panelists as well.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pamela Torres. I'm the Senior Management Analyst for the City of Lynwood's Public Works Department, and I'll just be giving you some information on the LLMD and Prop 218.
Thank you, Pamela. I'll now like to introduce Joanne, who is also here with us tonight.
Hi, my name is Joni Reynolds. I'm with Wildan Financial Services, and we serve as the city's district administrator.
Thank you, Joni. Tonight is an opportunity to learn about Prop 218 and for community members to offer your feedback on the LLMD assessment. In tonight's agenda, we already went over introductions. We'll be talking about Prop 218, the proposed assessment adjustments, and then we'll be moving forward to Q&As. We know you have questions, and we know this is a surrounding issue. These are questions that are very valuable, and we want to hear them from you. We are here tonight to answer any of your questions and to hear your thoughts. I do want to say a friendly reminder that this meeting is being recorded, and it will be posted on our website at www.lynwoodca.gov/LLMD. Also, a quick note, Only panel members will be on camera and have audio today. We have 2 hours here today, and we'll run through a short presentation that focuses on the Lighting and Landscaping Maintenance District and Prop 218. And then we will be moving forward on the community and answering any questions. I do want to note that we are using the Q&A feature of Zoom. As you can see here on the screen, therefore you need to submit your questions through that form. We have been accepting questions prior to tonight, so we already have a few questions that we will be answering, but we will try to get all your questions answered and submitted. So please feel free to submit any of your questions in the chat box, as you can see in the red arrow on the screen. We do have a hard stop at 8 p.m. So any questions we don't get to, we invite you to email us and we will plan on following up with you. Please note that some questions may be redundant, so we may have to answer a version similar to that question that reflects the similarity of that question. But we will be answering all your questions. I would like now to move forward with Pamela with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanya. Thank everybody for coming. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background information on the Lighting and Landscape Maintenance Districts to help you hopefully understand what they are. The Lighting and Landscape District is basically all of the city of Lynwood, serving all the parcels that are within the city. The assessment funds for the lighting district go towards the maintenance, the repairs, and the replacement of street lights that are owned by the city. The landscaping maintenance district funds go towards the maintenance, the installation of trees, shrubbery, and the planting of these new plantings of public spaces, such as the parks, the medians, and other public right-of-ways, city-owned buildings, the well sites, areas like that. So currently the Lynwood LLMD current rates are $1.62 per front footage in Zone 1 of the lighting district, and in Zone 2 of the lighting district, it's $3 per front footage. The Zone 1 of the lighting district is commercial property, commercial areas, and Zone 2 is residential is Zone 1, Zone 2 is the commercial properties. The landscape maintenance current fee is for all residential and commercial, and that's $1.90 per front footage. That's the current rate. So with Prop 218, local governments must obtain approval from the property owners who would benefit from a new or increased assessment before it can be implemented. So that's the process that we're going through now that ballots were sent out. The city has chosen to go towards Prop 218 for this, for the increase in the assessments because the inflation and rising maintenance costs have led to a $9.5 million deficit in the city's budget towards these assessment districts. As part of the 7-year deficit recovery plan, the city is proposing an increase to both the lighting and landscape maintenance district assessments. And this would go on your property bills, which is following the guidelines of Prop 218. Next slide. So our proposed assessment adjustment in order to maintain the districts and to recover the deficit would go to $1.80 per front footage in the lighting maintenance district for Zone 1. And for Zone 2, it would go to $3.35 per front footage. So it works out to about 18 cents, an 18-cent increase in Zone 1 and about a 23-cent increase in Zone 2. For the landscape maintenance, it would move to $6.55 per front footage, which comes to about $4.65 increase for that landscape maintenance district. You've all have received ballots. The next slide is a sample ballot of what the property taxes or what the increase would be for the in particular address, which I believe is the city's address. But this is what your ballots look like. So it gives you the information on what the current rate is, what the proposed rate is, and that amount would be what the proposed rate would come out to for your property. And then you can vote at the bottom whether yes, you agree with this assessment and are approving it, or no, you do not want to go forward with the assessment. That is up to the voters. This is a sample ballot of the landscaping, and then we have a sample ballot of the lighting. And the next slide. So the community impact of these assessments: if a majority of the property owners approve the proposed increase, the city will be able to maintain the current standard of upkeeping for both the landscaping and street lighting. Without this additional revenue, the city will likely need to reduce services or reallocate funds from other essential general fund departments in order to balance the budget. That's the presentation. We'll be going to questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. We are now moving forward to questions and answers. So if you'd like to submit some of your questions in the Q&A chat, we would appreciate it. Okay. If we don't have any questions, I will be asking Pam some of the questions that, residents have been asking. So Pamela, if we vote no, will the increase still happen?
There are residents here who do have some questions, and we're going to get them in writing.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. So I'll give it a few moments then, so you can have some time.
Anya, you can begin with the questions that are in the live already, as our team is documenting the questions that are coming into chat into that box there. And as you go down, we will begin marking that those have been answered or are need to be answered.
Perfect. Thank you, Valerie. So as mentioned, if we vote no, will the increase still happen?
No, the increase will not happen if the residents vote no.
Thank you, Pam. Another question that we have here is, can I get a new ballot if it has been thrown out?
Yes, a new ballot can be issued to anyone who does not have their ballot. We would need to get the information from them and then be able to send out a new one.
Thank you. Are we voting for the assessment or the increase?
The assessment would be the assessment is already in place. You'd be voting now for an increase to the current assessment.
Got it. Can we provide a clear explanation of what special, not general benefit a specific property receives that justifies this proposed assessment increase?
The increase isn't property specific. It's for the entire district, which would be the city, city lights, city parks, city medians. It's not property specific to a certain household or a certain home. It's for the entire public right-of-ways and lights.
Got it. Thank you. Now, how does the city distinguish between general benefits to the public, for example, parks, mediums, street lightings, and specific quantifiable benefits to residents' parcels?
That would be the same as before. It's not specific to the residence parcel. It's for public right-of-ways. So street lightings and public right-of-ways, the medians, parks, and other areas that are public.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, are any of the services covered by this assessment, such as street lighting or park maintenance, currently funded by general tax revenue? And if so, how will the funding sources change with the implementation of the new assessment?
Currently, the landscaping and lighting district is mainly funded through this assessment. So right now we're going into the deficit because we haven't been going into our general funds or any other general funds. We do have other funds that do help pay for this, but they're also specialized funds. And if those don't increase, and they more than likely aren't going to if it's state and federal funds, this is where we get the money to pay for the lighting and landscaping.
Thank you, Pam. Now, what has been the annual assessment rate per parcel in the recent years? And what specific services have been funded to date under the existing lighting and landscaping maintenance district structure?
The current rates would be sorry, let me go back so I can make sure I have the right ones. The current rates are the $1.62 for the lighting maintenance district. It's $1.62 in zone 1, which is residential, and $3 per front footage in zone 2, which is commercial. And the landscape maintenance is $1.90 per front footage, and that's through the whole district. That's not divided into different zones. And currently, it's the services that are being done now: the fixing of the lights, the maintenance of the lights, the median landscaping, keeping that maintenance maintained and up to date, and then the park maintenance.
Thank you, Pam. I have another question here. If approved, will the proposed assessment be subject to future increases beyond CPI? What safeguards are in place to prevent unchecked growth in these charges?
The charges will not be increased more other than the CPI. And if there's the only way for it to go higher than what is already in place with the CPI, and if this increase goes in place, the next increase would only happen through the same process, the Prop 218 process. It would have to be voted on by the residents and homeowners, property owners.
Thank you, Pam. And some residents are asking, why are they receiving two separate ballots?
It's the two ballots. One ballot is for the lighting district and the other is for the landscaping district.
Thank you, Pam.
You have to vote on both.
Does the quality of lighting and landscape make a difference in my property value?
It can make a difference on the property value if they're not maintained, if the streets are dark, that's not safe. So all of that's going to play into your property value. If you're trying to sell your home and you're selling it in a place that has overgrown weeds and no street lighting, that will affect the value of your property.
Perfect. Now, what is the purpose of a maintenance assessment if I already paid taxes?
Well, the maintenance assessment goes directly to the maintenance of the lighting and landscaping districts. Tax money can go to different funds. It goes towards different services, not specifically for the landscape and lighting. And that's what this money from the assessment goes directly to: landscape and lighting, and is not spent in any other capacity.
Got it. Now, will there be an oversight committee responsible for monitoring the funds from the assessment increase?
And no, there's not an oversight committee. It goes into the budget for the lighting and landscaping, and that's where the money is spent.
Okay. And then some residents want to know, why is there such a big increase now?
Well, the increase, we haven't had an increase in the lighting and landscape assessment districts, I believe, in over 20 years. It's just hasn't been done. And as the rates and the costs go up, our deficit has continued to grow. So we are trying to make that up and spreading that out. Instead of getting it all at once, we're spreading it out over the 7 years. And in order to do that, that's the rate that it would have to go to in order to close the deficit.
Perfect. And I have a resident here asking, how is it equally proportioned if some homes have several? Oh, sorry, everyone. I was muted.
Can you read that question again, please?
I apologize. The question was, it's a little long, Pamela, but it says, how is it equally proportioned if some homes have several inhabitants? A household that may only have 2 members may have the same financial burden as a home that has 8 or more members. And instead, why not raise the funds by issuing parking permits so that the citizens of the city as a whole equally take the burden of the city maintenance?
Well, the assessment is done per front footage of the property. So it's not based on the number of residents or the number of people living in that household. It's based on the property, the size of the property, and the front footage amount. So that's why it's all this, it's all the same for the rate is the same for everybody, every property owner. And again, with the issuing parking permits, that money doesn't go directly to lighting and landscaping. It could go to other. It could be spent in other ways, not directly to lighting and landscaping. So, that's why we're going after the increase.
Thank you. And a simple question, when is the ballot due?
Ballots are due August 5th.
Perfect. Now, if the majority of residents vote no, what type of essential funds will be affected?
That would be, I want to clarify, the ballots are due August 5th by the public hearing at the meeting that night. So before that ends, all ballots need to be turned in. And then as far as what would be affected, that would be something council would have to look at and see where money can be moved in order to continue to maintain the lighting and the landscaping. With the rising cost of everything, it's going to start costing us a little bit more to get that done. So in order to continue where we're at, council would have to look at and see what funds can be moved and where.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. Now, are there any other options for raising funds?
Currently, not directly for lighting and landscaping, no.
Okay. What percent has to vote no for it not to pass?
I don't know if there is a percentage. I don't know if Joni, if you have that answer, but I believe it has to be a majority. In order for it to pass, it has to be a majority of yeses of the ballots that are submitted. Is that correct?
Yes. The ballots are weighted by the assessment amount. So it's 50 plus 1 would have to vote no for it not to pass because it's a majority protest. So that's how that works.
Thank you. I have another question coming in here. It says, can you clarify that if we vote yes, we are also voting yes to potentially future increases without having to vote again?
No. You wouldn't be voting yes to future increases. If there is another increase other than a CPI increase, which I believe is already in the language of this particular ballot, any other increase beyond that would have to go back to a vote.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Now, the parcel ballot assessment amount for the fiscal year 25 to 2026, a resident, I believe, is stating it's 393.30. Okay, this one I believe we already answered, sorry. Okay, I have another question here. What funds are you using now for all the services?
Well, there's currently an assessment, so we are using lighting and landscape maintenance district funds.
Okay, thank you. What steps has the city taken to cut costs?
We're not able to really cut the costs because these are vital. The street lighting is a vital thing, so we're not cutting costs, but we are maybe delayed in getting the work done because of if the money's not there, we have to, wait for the new fiscal year in order to have money to maybe repair that light. Our services as far as the landscaping, again, it gets done, but not as quickly or as often as we would like.
Okay.
That would be cost cutting ways.
Now, will the city stop lighting the streets if I vote no?
No, the city will not stop lighting the streets.
And who should residents contact if they have questions about the ballot or notice?
They can contact either myself, anyone here. Well, not anyone in the city, but if they call the city number, and we'll direct them to who could answer those questions.
Yes, and just to add on to that, our phone number is 310-603-0220. We have a couple more questions here, Pamela. They want to know, do you have a detailed cost assessment associated with fixing lights and landscaping? And how often do these projects occur?
I don't have the specific cost for each lighting or the landscaping. It's part of the ongoing work that the Public Works Department does in some of our contractors. And so we don't have a specific cost. And it would also, for the street lights, it would just depend on when the light goes out, if one's knocked down in a car accident, things like that, and then the amount of damage that's done. So that amount would vary as far as the damage.
Thank you, Pam. I am going through the questions here to see what residents have submitted. Are senior citizens able to opt out of the increase or apply for a waiver for their property?
Currently, no.
Perfect. Okay, any other questions? If you can drop it in the chat box. Okay, I see more questions coming in here. Since it's been running at a 7-year deficit, how come it's taken this long to address? Is there things being done to make things run more efficient, whether it be in landscaping, using more efficient products, or using lights that are more efficient? Is there any collaboration with other cities with what works in their cities?
I'm not, as far as why it's taken this long, that is just something that previously has not been visited. It hasn't been a burden that we've wanted to place on the residents. In collaboration with other cities, we talk to other cities and see what they're doing, but they have different budget constraints and incomes, funds coming in. So it's hard to judge us against another city that maybe has more tax dollars, more general fund money that they can use. That's not something that the city of Lynwood has.
Vania, Pam, I want to chime in to answer this question as well. I want to introduce myself. My name is Harry Wong. I'm the finance director for the city. The rate, as Pam has mentioned earlier, both the lighting rates as well as the landscaping rate have not been increased for the past 25 years or more. So the revenue side stayed the same for more than 25 years, and the expenditure side has been growing over the last 25 plus years. So the city has been running a deficit, structural deficit, right? And previously, city has a fund balance within the funds that can absorb those shortfalls. But the past few years, as the public knows, inflation has been really big, really high. And also for the lighting district, for example, there are a lot more copper wires being stolen, a lot more maintenance that needs to be done. And then we have bigger disasters. We have higher magnitude winds that blow down the trees and then that cause more gardening or landscaping work. All of that add up to additional costs, right? Again, revenue has not been increasing at all, but expenditure has been increasing very much. This has becoming a really big problem that we have to address now, and with the support of the current council and also the management, that's why the city wants to address the problem before the snowball gets any bigger. I hope I answered this question.
Thank you, Peter. Yes. We will be moving forward with another question here. How will we reassure that the city will actually be maintained?
How would we be reassured that the city would be maintained? It would allow, if it's voted no, then the maintenance would continue as is right now, possibly going down if we need to start cutting the funds towards this work. If it gets increased, again, the maintenance is going to stay in place and allow us to be able to, work more frequently in getting the medians done, getting the parks cleaned, having possibly new plantings in that area, and then the street lighting would get maintained on a more regular basis.
Thank you, Pamela. And then just a couple more questions. So not everyone's vote is the same. The bigger the parcel means the vote is more important. Does that mean the vote is more important?
Joni, are you able to answer that?
I can take that, Pamela. It's not that it's more important. It's just the methodology that's in place for the city of Lynwood's lighting and landscaping districts it's by front footage. And so if a property has more landscaping in front of their parcel, that means that they are consuming more, so to speak, of the city services of the landscaping services that are being provided in front of their parcel. So that means that their annual assessment is higher than maybe a smaller residential home that doesn't have as much landscaping in front. So that's why their vote is weighted more. It's not that it's more important, it's just weighted more. And so since their dollar amount is more. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Joni. Okay, we have a couple more questions here. Is the engineer report available online?
I don't believe it currently is, but I think we are working to get that available for the public to view.
Pamela, just want to chime in. Since as a communication specialist, I have uploaded it to the website, so it is up there available for residents. So yes. Pamela, I see another question here. Does the engineer report include a parcel level benefit analysis and cost allocation methodology?
Do you have that information? I don't think it does. Other than the cost.
And I believe we mentioned something similar to this already. Okay, I will be moving on to the next question. What if there's no landscaping in front of the property? Does that mean that the vote does not count?
No, it would still count.
It still counts.
Thank you to both. Okay. I see one more question coming in. Give me 1 second, everyone. When will the residents be voting for this? Would it be this year or in 2026?
The ballots are due August 5th of this year.
And if approved, the increased assessment would show on your 25-26 property tax bill.
Thank you to both. I believe we have answered the majority of the questions. Let me see here. We have a couple more coming in, ladies. Why are townhouses that have no front landscaping also have a fee?
Emily, do you want to take it or you want me to?
If you can, Joni.
Okay. The townhome or the townhouse itself may have no landscaping in front, but it's more of the landscaping that is in front of their unit. So that's why they're being assessed. Because their property is still benefiting from the physical attributes of, the enhanced landscaping in front of their property, which would then in turn increase their property value.
Thank you, Tony. And for the lighting, is this only for the maintenance or will more lighting be put in place?
It would be for the maintenance and the replacement of any missing street lights currently. As far as more lighting being put in place, if there's a need for it, that would be something the city would have to look at.
Thank you, Pam. Let me check here. We have another question coming in. What is the current budget for these projects without approval based off of 2024?
I will chime in this question. Again, the current expenditures of both funds are higher than the revenue that comes in. For example, for the landscaping district, the incoming revenue is at the 1 million level, and then the expenditures at the $3 million level. So at end of the year, each year we're looking at a structural deficit of $2 million.
Thank you, Harry. Any other questions? Please drop them in the chat box. It looks like we have answered the majority of questions already. Okay, we have one more coming in. So if 44 units pay for the 15-foot piece of cement, okay, they just cut it off there. I'll be skipping to the next question. Thank you everyone for your questions. If you have any other questions, please continue dropping them in the chat box. We're waiting on more questions to come in. We're just waiting for questions to come in the chat box. Okay, so if not approved now, will they be brought back in a later year?
There is a possibility that it will be, but that would be something that council would have to look at.
Thank you, Pamela. I have another question here. I believe this is the second time asking. What does it mean that there is no sunset on the assessments?
I'm not sure I understand the question. It doesn't, the assessment doesn't, it's a part of the property taxes. Is that correct,
It
Joni?
goes on. Yeah, it goes on in perpetuity. It's not like other special taxes that are maybe attached to a bond and you can pay them off in 30 years via your property taxes. Landscaping and lighting districts go on in perpetuity, or it just never ends.
Okay, thank you to both. Now, if 44 townhome units pay for the 15-foot cement entrance, do all units in townhomes pay the same amount?
Yes, I would. We would need to investigate the parcel numbers, but yes, they should all be paying the same amount if they all receive a property tax bill.
Thank you. Another question here. Can you advise whether this increase will impact all residents or only certain individuals?
It would impact all property owners because it would go on the property owner's property tax.
Thank you, Pamela. I have a resident here saying, since copper is stolen so frequently for lights, would solar lights work better instead of having to replace the copper?
We've looked into the solar lighting of it. So right now it's just something, all the street lights would need to be changed out into a different thing, and then we'd have to see how they would actually work. If there's cloudy days, if there's not enough sun that powers it, other things like that. So that's something the city would have to look into.
Thank you. If a senior citizen is unable to pay the increased fee, will the senior citizen be at risk of losing their property?
I don't have an answer for that. Does anybody know what that would be?
Well, the fee, I'll chime in a little bit on this. So the assessment fee, again, there's a current assessment that all property owners are paying already. The city is looking at increase the rate, and then the rate, whether the current assessment or the new assessment is part of your property tax bill. So you will have to fully pay your property tax bill. If you don't fully pay your property tax bill, and I believe the county can place a lien on your property.
Thank you, Harry. Now, if this passes, could you clarify what measures are in place to ensure the additional revenue will be used effectively to complete the proposed work?
Pam, do you want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
The assessment fees will be set aside and only be put into the lighting district fund as well as the landscaping fund. Those are two separate funds within our general ledger. So the revenue will be staying in there. So They would not go anywhere. They would not be used for any other city services. So the money will stay in the fund for maintenance projects, for I believe the previous question about any new lighting or new landscaping needs, city's public works department would evaluate the need and would be used only for the landscaping and lighting purposes.
Thank you, Harry. A resident is asking, can you explain the inflationary adjustment included in the notice received?
Joni, could you provide that answer?
Yes, I can. So the assessment, the amount that's on the ballot, which reads right now, your parcel's balloted assessment amount, fiscal year 25-26, that amount, what I'm looking at a ballot that has $403.78. So the city will decide whether or not to increase the assessment by 3%, up to 3%, or use the, sorry, I want to get this right, the consumer price index for Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim area. So they'll use the greater of the two, whichever it is decided internally to use. And then they will inflate the, as I said before, the $403.78, which is just an example. They will inflate that amount by either the 3% or the CPI that's released for LA, Long Beach, and Anaheim. And then that will become the new maximum assessment rate. The city decides whether or not they want to ballot or they want to assess up to that new amount. And that's how the CPI works. Harry, do you have anything to add? Did I explain that correctly?
You did. I don't have
Okay.
anything else to add.
Thank you, Joni. I have another question here. If this proposed assessment rate is approved by the majority, will there be a new assessment proposed in the future?
Again, that would be something the council would need to decide on, but it would have to go through a vote again if an increase is proposed.
Thank you, Pamela. Okay, any other questions? Please drop them in the Q&A if you have additional questions that you would like us to answer. Okay, we have a question coming through here. If this passes, will it be a one-time deal?
The assessment is every year, every fiscal year, it's on the property tax.
And
Thank you,
the hope, I'm sorry, Vanya, the hope is that by adding in the CPI increase, that will mean that we don't have to go out to ballot again, so that the costs will increase moderately to take on inflation. Any new projects that maybe the city wants to implement in the future or things of that nature.
Thank you. I have another question here. So to clarify, the rate increase will go up. It will never end. It will never end. And by 2026, 27, will there be another increase? Inflationary adjustment?
So yes, the assessment will not end unless the district for some reason was dissolved by the city. And then the assessment rate can increase annually by the CPI or the inflationary adjustment no more if approved, if taken to council and approved by council. I failed to mention the approval of council portion last time. Because every year we still have to go, the city still has to take it to council to get to go through the intent meeting and the public hearing process.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, a couple more questions are coming in. So I have another question here. Are there future specific projects in mind that if approved would go into place?
Currently, there are no future projects that we are targeting with this money. It would just currently just be for the routine maintenance of the districts.
Thank you, Pamela. I believe we have a couple questions coming in. We'll give it a moment. Who will vote on the inflationary adjustment for 2026, 2027?
City staff would present it to council and it would go to a public hearing and council would accept public comment on the proposed increase or the inflationary increase, and then they would vote accordingly.
Thank you, Joni. I do want to retouch that. If you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box, not the chat box. So please submit your questions in the Q&A box. Thank you. As residents, how will we know if the money is actually being used for its purpose if there were not be an actual trail?
Harry, do you want to answer that?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, Harry. As residents, how will we know if the money is actually being used for its purpose if there will not be an actual trail?
There will be a natural trail like I said, all the revenue and expenditures are separately tracked in two separate funds. So any expenditures being spent in that fund, there are record to show that whether it's payment to a vendor, whether it's a contractual payment to a professional service firm. So all of those has a record. So resident can do public record requests and ask for those. Likewise, for the revenue side, the assessment that came in from the property tax bill that's earmarked for that assessment district, that's the only amount that we recorded into those funds. And each year we recorded per the allocation based on the county allocation schedule. So all of those has track record to trace. So if a resident wants to see any of those records, they are allowed to look into those.
Perfect. Thank you, Harry. I have another question here. Our street, Carlin to Rosecrans, has had no light fixtures. They have been removed by Edison. Are there plans to add them back in?
Edison streetlights are separate from the city-owned streetlights. I'm not sure why Edison removed those. That would be something we would need to speak with Edison about. But this lighting assessment would be for a street-owned or city-owned streetlights.
Thank you, Pamela. So there will be 2 additional assessment fees added onto the property tax bill, and they're asking, and those can increase yearly due to the inflation, correct?
Well, currently the assessments are already on the tax bill. This vote is to increase those assessments. But if this is voted yes, the increase would be done yearly according to the CPI index or the inflation. That's correct.
Thank you. How many people make up these departments? What is the maintenance schedule for these projects?
The Public Works Department currently, I believe, has about 40 field staff. And then the maintenance schedule is, there's no set schedule. You know, we don't send them every Monday to this park or every Tuesday to the medians. It's on an ongoing basis. We just go through the areas and maintain and clean as needed.
Thank you, Pam. Residents, you can continue to drop in your questions in the Q&A box, please, and not in the chat in the Q&A box. Thank you. We're just waiting for any other questions to come through. Please submit them in the Q&A box, please. We have a couple questions coming through. A resident is asking, when are the ballots for lighting and landscaping due?
These are due August 5th.
Thank you. Is there some calculator where residents can see how much it would increase based off their square footage?
And we don't have a calculator.
And the new assessment amount is listed on everyone's ballots.
Thank you, Johnny.
And I believe the assessment roll is going to be posted to the city's website or the LLMD webpage, and which would allow someone to look up using their assessor parcel number, they could look up the current rate and the new rate, as well as their front footage.
Thank you, Johnny. And just to clarify, yes, it has been posted on our website. So residents, you are able to see that. Have another question here. Is there a list of proposed improvements and or a maintenance list that we can review? If so, where or who do we contact?
No, we don't currently have a list of proposed improvements. Again, the funds that we are for the lighting and landscaping assessment currently is for maintenance of the lighting and landscaping, and any future projects, we would have to look at the budget before we can start planning projects to using these funds.
Thank you. Will townhomes be charged differently?
No.
Will the ballots be counted in public?
Yes, they will be.
Thank you. Residents, you can continue dropping your questions in the Q&A box. Can a community member help count? Sorry, they cut that one off. Okay, just waiting for more questions to come in. Any other questions? Please drop your question in the Q&A box. Will duplexes be charged the same if they have several owners?
So I believe duplexes only have, since even though it's really one parcel. So whoever owns the duplex is the one who will receive the notice and ballot and be um and be asked to cast their ballot for or against.
Thank you, Joni. Is there an end date or is the increase forever?
It's in perpetuity forever.
Thank you. Who is in charge of the landscape department that community members can reach if any street maintenance is needed?
That would be through the Public Works Department. You would call the city phone number 603-0220 at extension 801.
Thank you. What is the deficit for the landscape and lighting? I believe you stated it in the presentation. Can you tell us again, please?
The current deficit is 9.5 million.
Thank you. We are just waiting for additional questions to come in. How soon can ballots be submitted?
Ballots can be submitted anytime. The city has already, it's my understanding, the city has already received ballot, the city clerk has, and they are being set aside unopened until the public hearing on August 5th. And so anytime.
Thank you. How do we know which lights are city owned and which ones are owned by Edison within the city?
I don't have an exact location, but if there's a specific light that is in question, we can definitely check that.
Thank you. Will the city establish a committee to count the ballots?
Typically, the city clerk has Wildan be in charge of ballot tabulation. We have proprietary software so that we can scan all of the ballots into a tally database and have the answers within that database that show the for and the against by APN number and assessment amount.
Thank you. Residents, you can continue to submit your questions in the Q&A box. Sorry, I'm on mute. I have another question here. If we miss the meeting, where would the recording be posted? I can answer that question. We will be posting it on our website at www.lynwoodca.gov/LLMD, and we will have the recording posted in that section specifically for landscaping and lighting maintenance district. If anyone else wants to add anything. We have another question here. If it were to pass, how do we ensure that the ballots were counted correctly?
The ballots are open to public record, and a property owner or a resident could come in and ask to see them. But they will be counted correctly. Wildan wouldn't be doing this if they weren't counted correctly.
Thank you, Joni. Residents want to know if there's a specific way to mark the box in their ballot.
No, an X will work, a check mark will work. You can fill it in like a bubble Scantron form, however they want to fill it in. Just only mark one box. And if they accidentally mark two boxes, please call the city and request a replacement ballot.
Thank you. I do want to mention that if we don't have any more questions coming in, we will be staying for 10 more minutes and ending the session. So please submit your questions in the Q&A. Okay, a couple more questions are coming in. Is it possible to request for a committee to count the ballots?
Pamela and Harry, I'll have you weigh on this, but the code reads the city clerk or their designee. So.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, the ballots, I believe, are going to be counted in in the at that meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So
we will start.
it
You go. The ballots will be counted. We'll start counting the ballots after council closes the public hearing in an open space in City Hall. And we will continue probably throughout till the end of the meeting. We don't anticipate that all ballots will be counted in that evening due to there's over 10,000 parcels that are being balloted. So we will likely reconvene on the following morning, which I believe is a Wednesday, and then we will finish the ballot tabulation hopefully by noon.
Thank you, Joni. Just a couple more minutes. If we don't receive any additional questions. Okay. How much would we be raised in 1 year?
I believe what this question is asking is how much revenue or assessment revenue would come in 1 year at the new proposed amount. For the landscape district, if it was approved, it would generate, sorry, it would generate $3.7 million roughly for landscaping. For lighting, it would generate approximately 1.15 million.
Thank you, Joni. A resident is asking, can I get a copy of this PowerPoint? How can I see the plan? So a copy, I can answer that, ladies. A copy or the recording, sorry, of the presentation will be on our online at our LLMD page. And that would be www.lynwoodca.gov/LLMD.
And Vanya, going back to the last question, all of those, the expenses, the assessment revenue generated at the current rate and at the proposed rate, all of that information is available in the engineer's report that is posted on the city's website.
Thank you. Yes, correct. Thank you, Joni. Okay, and it looks like that was the last question for tonight. No additional questions are coming in. So I just want to say that the city will be discussing policy options based on study results at the early of October council meeting, and we will decide on moving forward with the rate increase. If you had a question that was left unanswered, we encourage you to stay informed at lynwoodca.gov/LLMD and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at mylynwoodca. So thank you for joining us tonight. You can scan the QR code. The next slide, please. Yeah, so everyone can scan this QR code. It'll be taking you to our LLMD page, and you can view a list of our frequently asked questions. So thank you so much for our panelists for joining us tonight, and thank you for all the residents as well and for your questions. I hope everyone has a good night and have a good evening. Thank you, everyone.